Welcome to the Joy Quota Podcast. I'm Dylan Pfohl.
And I'm Gavin Malcolm. Today our guest is Dylan Pfohl, the other host.
Hey!
He's finally back from his crazy trip in Asia. We took a brief hiatus due to COVID, due to 1,000 other things. But more importantly, we get to find out how his trip was. Not to mention, Dylan is up to so many new projects, so many amazing new things going on. He bought the worst car in America. He bought the cheapest 3000 GT. And he's about to buy a jet ski. Let's check it out.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back.
I guess we should probably talk more about like you coming back from Asia and what that trip was all like. Because realistically, the last time anyone talked with us, when last time we
talked at them.
Yeah, exactly.
Was before I left for 5 months in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Dylan was monkeying around out in Asia, having a good time, exploring, quasi-finding himself, quasi-getting infections from trees.
No, I got no infections. I got no infections, no viruses, nothing.
Yeah, so I guess...
Yeah, I left in November of 2019 and immediately went to Bali. And I bought a one-way ticket. It was a $450 ticket, and with the thought of just find hostels to live in that cost $3 a day and get a surfboard and meals that cost $1 and just surf and not have to do anything that I didn't want to. Because for $3 a day, it was more like $20 a day by the time you have a scooter rental and
surfboard rental, or bought a
surfboard and bought the surfboard rack for the scooter and meals and that kind of stuff. But for $20 a day, that's still $600 a month is your expenses. You can live all right.
Yeah.
On that.
It's amazing. I'd never thought of what does a scooter rack for a surfboard look like? Because unless you're like a pro surfer, you're using like an 8-foot board. How does that fit on a scooter?
My board wasn't quite 8 feet, but they fit on there. It's just kind of what you would expect, like a giant U that comes off that bolts onto the board or the scooter. And there's 2 U's, one on the front, one on the back, that hang off it, and they're wrapped in like noodle, like
like pool noodle, yeah.
Yeah, so your board doesn't get banged up, and you have a bungee cord to bungee it onto the scooter, and it works. It works great.
No, yeah, it sounds like it would.
It costs $100 because I didn't.
That's a sixth of your monthly income. What are you gonna do?
I know it sucked. That's not my biggest mistake, but a mistake of going to Bali. I just rented the first scooter that I saw without thinking about it, and then realized it didn't have a board rack, and then had to pay $100 to get the board rack put on it when the scooter only cost $70 for a month. I paid more.
I was gonna say, did you have to do this every day, like reattach the board rack to a different scooter every day?
No. You do a monthly rental.
That's not bad. I wish I could rent a scooter out here for $70 a month. I'd be all over that.
$3 a day or whatever it is, $3.50. Yeah.
So I guess for anyone who doesn't know, what kind of took you out to there in the first place? Like, what drove you to go explore Southeast Asia in the first place?
Yeah, there were a few different catalysts, I suppose. I've kind of been doing a bit of traveling for a long time. Like my parents would always take us on road trips. And then when we were a little older, maybe like 13, we started going to Mexico for a week every year. And we were very fortunate in that. And then started doing a lot of BMX road trips and then eventually BMX travels through filming and contests and that sort of thing. And while also doing trips with friends. And in those trips, I would always meet people that were doing like actual long-term travels, and they would say how much they love it and all the places they've been. Especially, I started thinking about it. I went to Colombia at some point. I can't remember which.
I'm pretty sure that was in 2019, like the beginning of 2019. You went with Brian Banghart.
Yeah, end of 2018 because it was December.
Okay, yeah.
So I went to Colombia, and that was the first time it started occurring to me, like just how cheap it could really be done if I wanted to. Like if I could figure out a way to make $1,000 a month somehow, you can live pretty easily. And I'd met some other people that were doing it, and then. But it wasn't really the right time. Like I was pursuing other projects and doing life things that it just didn't make sense at the time to do at the end of 2018, at least, to drop everything and just go travel the world. And I didn't really have any money saved or anything like that. So then a few months later, the big project that I was pursuing kind of fell apart, I guess.
Imploded, maybe?
I got sick of,
You'd been putting effort into that for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I was working on a project for 4 or 5 years,
out.
and it was just never successful. It never took off. It never made money. And it always seemed like it was going to, and then it just never did. And a few different things made me get sick of it, and at the same time, my buddy Alex wanted to go to China for X Games, and he invited me to go with him. And so that was kind of a good time to like just call it quits and go do this 3-week trip to China with him. And that was awesome. China itself was just okay, but throughout that trip, I was meeting more of these people that were doing these extended like 6-month, year and a half long trips where they're super low budget. Like I'm saying, like 5 to 10, max $20 a day you're spending. But when you're spending less than $1,000 a month, whatever savings you have goes a really, really long way.
Yeah, I mean, to put that in perspective, even in Mexico, you could easily spend $100 a day getting room and board and food and everything else. And
that's at a resort though, or Airbnb. True. Like I'm sure there's hostels all over the world, except for the U.S. U.S. doesn't have hostels for whatever reason, but or at least cheap ones. But
yeah, but I do feel like Asia's like unbelievably cheap, even if you look at like places to go long-term travel.
Definitely, that is the general spot is Southeast Asia because it is much more affordable.
Yeah, because I bet someone who bought like a 2019 car and is leasing it and paying for insurance on said car is probably somewhere in the ballpark of like $400 to $500 a month between those two payments just on that. So if you didn't do that, you could go live in Bali for a month for that same price, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, like that would be a lease in a baller apartment in Bali is $400 or $500 a month for sure. Not baller. More than adequate though. Not
you wouldn't be Slumdog Millionaire in it.
Yeah, totally. And so I got back from China in July of last year and kind of made my decision that I was gonna save as much money as I could, and I had 2 weddings that I was a part of, including my brother's, in October, so I couldn't leave before October. So my plan was just end of October, save as much money as I can before that, and then just go until the money runs out. And turns out that was great, and I still had money the money ran out. The money didn't run out, but the world closed.
Yeah, exactly.
The
entire globe decided we are no longer taking applications at this time for doing stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, what part of the world were you in when all of this craziness with COVID kind of happened?
It was starting to happen when I was in Thailand. Mask use was increasing. That would have been in the month of February. And so it had been going on in China for a while, but they just kind of like said no. I think they weren't allowing Chinese people or something like that. Like no Chinese tourists were allowed.
Yeah, it hadn't quite been escalated to global shutdown yet.
Right. And so then the end of February, I traveled by bus to Myanmar, which is one country west, and get there and immediately no masks, no coronavirus, nothing to worry about. We're chilling. And so to me, that was great because I didn't want to worry about it, right? Like,
yeah, you're on your vacation from adulting. Well,
yeah,
why would
exactly.
you want to care about anything like that?
Totally. My dad was like, you should think about coming back. And I'm like, there's starting to get cases back at home. Why would I go back? There's 0 cases here. And so Myanmar is an interesting country. It's kind of new for tourists. And so it's still developing tourist-wise. There's a few really famous places, like the temples. I can't recall the name of them at the top of my head, but there's a bunch of temples that you go and you can ride balloons over, and that's like the one photo from it. But there's some really cool stuff. The people are generally super nice, really poor. It's a really poor country. And so, again, everything's cheap, but you also get hit up because you're white. And
yeah, they know where to aim their please donate
yeah.
calls, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in Myanmar, and then what kind of was the tipping point that made you decide, all right, it is time to go home?
Yeah, it was kind of a slow escalation, I would say. Because I was in Mandalay, which is a big city. It's where like the king used to live and all this. And I was kind of getting suspicious and starting to check flights, and they were actually pretty reasonable at the time, like later March, like mid-March, I guess. But I didn't know what I could do coming back because I'd given up the place that we lived in together. I didn't have anywhere to go, and it didn't seem fair for me to be potentially exposed in Myanmar, or to travel from Myanmar back to Denver is 5 international airports. So you're going to be exposed to all these people and potentially the virus. And so it didn't seem fair for me to come back and live with anybody. Like, I'm sure family and friends would offer me a place, but it just doesn't seem safe. So I didn't really have anywhere to go. So I kind of just brushed it aside, and then slowly, not slowly, actually, the opposite of that. One day I woke up and realized I'm the only one left at this hostel. So like, that's weird. Where did everybody go?
That's not a great sign.
Not a great sign. And then I just decided for my YouTube channel, I would do like a investigation, my own little investigation, like, is coronavirus actually in Myanmar or not? And so I was just kind of like asking people, are you afraid of coronavirus? And they're like, no, the government, there's no coronavirus. The news says no coronavirus. And then during that video, I'm like up in this temple, and again, asking people, and they're like, no coronavirus.
And
but
when
then
you
they're
say people, you're talking to like locals, right?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
right, because there were almost no tourists. Like
Okay.
that day, I maybe saw one other tourist at that point, like mid-March, and so at the same time they're saying no coronavirus, they're in this temple. There's like a 20 jugs of water around in a circle. And as a ritual, you have to take a drink of every 20 jug, like every jug of water out of the 20. You take one sip, and then but it's like in the same spoon. Like everybody's using the same spoons. And in my mind, I'm like, they're contaminating.
That's weird. Sans coronavirus.
Right, yeah. And I'm like, that's weird. And then everybody's walking around barefoot. There's no medical anything whatsoever. If coronavirus, maybe they're just no confirmed cases of coronavirus here because there are no tests. There's zero testing here. So if there is coronavirus, and if one person gets it, literally everyone's going to get it because they're all doing this ritual of taking this water and walking barefoot. And they also do this, it's called biddle. It's like chewing tobacco, except it's more socially acceptable to just spit on everything.
Yeah, it's
pretty
like
rough.
Real loose. Yeah, I experienced that in Australia when I was doing door-to-door sales. And I would go sell to like South Asian communities, literally like from a block away. You just like smell it because everything was kind of gross.
Yeah, and it's this...
And like it's loose. Like I feel like most Americans, at least when they picture a dip or like tobacco, like they're picturing like a cowboy and it's like tucked in the side of their lip. Like they just like loose chew it. It's like throughout their whole mouth.
Well, and here at least, generally people would spit into a bottle or maybe into the side of the road or something. But it's so rare and I didn't see it anywhere else in Asia that I went except for Myanmar, where it's like 50% of the population is doing this and then spitting everywhere, like on the sidewalk, in the streets, on everything. And so this virus that is travels by...
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah. So then I left that city and went down to, it's called Inle Lake. It's kind of supposed to be a more touristy area where there's a lake, a pretty lake that you go take a boat out on or whatever. And but right before I left the city, I went to a market and ate a bunch of chicken guts just because I'm stupid. And then so I get to Inle Lake and the road to Inle Lake is a nightmare. It's like no mountain pass you've ever been on, and these buses are going 50 miles an hour around these turns, and so these chicken guts in my stomach, going like this is the first time I've like actually felt legitimately car sick, like almost vomiting. Get there, and I feel just horrible.
Yeah,
so
you ate something
horrible.
you shouldn't eat if your day involves just recovering from what you ate. And then you hop on a crazy death bus ride.
Yeah. And then, so I feel horrible, like stomach issues, like all that.
Yeah.
I don't think we need details, but straight food poisoning. But then I get on Facebook and there's an article about one of the hidden symptoms of coronavirus is these exact digestive issues. And I'm like, I don't like that at all. And then I'm in this tourist town where there's literally no one. They're starting to close businesses. The person that owns the hostel I'm at is talking to me, and she's like, she's going to have to close her thing soon. And my visa is expiring. And once my visa expires, she's not allowed to rent me a hotel. But I can't use the borders are closed. My plan was to go back to Thailand, but the Thailand border is closed. And so I literally just had no options, and I have to book a flight out. So I spend like 5 days in this hotel, like trying to recover from this food poisoning / coronavirus.
Dang.
It's still unclear. Like, yeah, I didn't get to explore anything. I didn't see anything in Inle Lake except this stupid hotel room because I just felt disgusting.
Man.
Then take a bus back over that horrific road back to the main city, Yangon, where the airport is, where I had booked a flight out of. And in that time, my dad had said that I could stay in his camper for 2 weeks in quarantine and make sure I didn't have the virus. So at least I had a place to go, got the ticket, get back to the city, go to the airport, and my flight has been canceled. There wasn't even anybody at the desk. Like, it didn't, there was no
Like, you just walked into an empty, like,
essentially,
checkout
like,
area?
yeah, the airport wasn't empty, but the checkout area for AirAsia or whatever it was it just like there was no people. There was no signs. There was just literally nothing. So I obviously really bummed because I had finally decided to get out of there and just literally just wanted to be done. I wanted to be gone. So I had booked it on Kayak, call them up. They're like, yeah, we'll get you on a flight tomorrow. I'm like, okay. Go find luckily there was a hostel for a couple bucks right down the road. Chill there. And then I'm trying to think the exact. Oh, then they send me the new flight, and it's through Singapore. And as soon as they send me that flight, I get an email from the embassy, who I had signed up for their list so that at least they knew I was there.
Yeah.
I tried to do something smart. And so I get an email from the embassy saying that no flights are allowed in Singapore.
What a convenient time.
you can't even travel through there. Like, even though you're not going to Singapore, you can't even travel into the airport. So
I'm sure that, that email popped up because you booked a flight through Singapore. Like, how inconvenient.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not preemptive. Like, hey, don't go through Singapore. Jeez.
Right. So I call Kayak again. I'm like, hey, the embassy just told me I can't go through Singapore. And they're like, oh, you should have known that when you booked the flight. I was like, no, you booked me the flight.
Yeah.
Like, that was the only, that was
I'm the one that said, I'm trying to fly home.
Yeah.
You chose.
And they're like,
through
oh,
Singapore.
no, you just try and get on the plane. So I go the next day, and by this time, now the airport's jammed, like lines out the door. I wait 2 hours in line at like 6 a.m., get up to the front, and they're like, oh, you can't go to Singapore. I'm like,
Jeez.
Sick, thanks. And then I'm completely out of luck because the flight still took off. I can't get a refund. I can't do anything. So that was $850 just gone. So then I have to book another flight through Japan like 3 days later. And
So you get denied entrance, or entrance is maybe the wrong. Like, you don't even get passage through Singapore, so you end up losing your flight, obviously, all the way home. Because I'm assuming that was the first stop.
Right, yeah.
So
But
you
because
couldn't even go to a different airport and then try and circumnavigate it.
Right,
That
'cause
was
they're-
the flight out of Myanmar.
Exactly. There's so few flights there, and because the flight it wasn't canceled. I just wasn't allowed on it. They don't have to give me my money back, which is insane. But
Yeah.
so then I've got this flight to Japan. It was a flight to Bangkok, then Japan. I arrive like 4 hours early to the airport because I'm just like, I'm going to be prepared.
Chances now, yeah.
Yeah, take no chances. Wait again 2 hours in the line, get up, and thankfully I did because I get to the front and there's 2 hours left until the flight takes off, and she's like, "Oh, you need a doctor's note that says you're allowed to fly." And I'm like,
Jeez.
I
was here
losing
yesterday.
my
Tell me
mind.
about this stuff.
I was losing my mind because I'm like, yeah, at this point I've been like,
been to this airport 3 times. I'm just now.
Well, I've been
about
sick for a week. I've been on buses and just miserable, like absolutely miserable. I am going home no matter what. Like I would have literally killed her if she wouldn't let me on the plane. Like I was so furious. She's like, "Well, here's the address. Go get a doctor's note." And so with all my bags on, I have to run as fast as I can out the airport, jump into a taxi, and I'm like, take me to this airport. Yeah. And I check it on my phone, and it says like 30 minutes. And it's like 2 hours left, so I'm like, 30 minutes there.
At
then
least
30 minutes.
30 minutes there, 30 minutes back.
30 minutes back. I'm like, but then she's like, well, before I took off running, she was like, you have to, the gate, we won't let you through unless you're here an hour early. So I'm like, really I have 1 hour. I have 1 hour. So GPS is telling me 30 minutes there. I'm like, it better only take 1 minute to get that stupid piece of paper. And I'm like telling the guy to rush, but his GPS only says 20 minutes. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. Is he not going to the right place or whatever? So I'm like,
Dude,
really,
this was like Wazi or whatever.
It turned out my map was to the wrong place. So thankfully he knew where he was going. He got me there in 20 minutes. I just go running into it's like a hotel with a doctor in it. I blow past everybody. I'm like, I have 1 hour until my flight. Can you do the doctor's note? And then she's like, okay, we'll call you when we're ready. And I'm like, the most stressed out I've ever been in my life, sitting there waiting for her to call me. Thankfully,
at this point, how much money do you have left for a third backup flight if you needed it?
None. No, it was all gone. The first one was $850 and the second one was like $1,300. So that would have lasted me like 3 more months in Asia or flights.
2 flights, yeah.
Yeah. Then she calls me up and then they have to do the thing on the arm, that pressure or whatever.
Pressure.
Yeah. I'm sitting there. Do that. And of course, I think she had to do it twice actually, because the first time it was too high because I was the most stressed out I've ever been. And my blood pressure was too high. And she's like, you just got to sit there and relax for a little bit. And I'm just like,
great advice. Thank you.
I'm like checking my phone. The time is passing by. All right. And then she comes back in and does it. And then this isn't the doctor. So then I have to go back and wait until the doctor can call me. And she's like, do you have a cough? Nope. Do you know anybody with the coronavirus? Nope. Do you feel good? Yep. Okay. Sign it. I have to pay him $50 for that signed piece of paper. Run back.
It's nice to know that paying for the doctor is a garbage experience anywhere you go in the world, you know? It felt like we really perfected it here in the States, you know? But it's good to know that anytime you go to the doctor anywhere in the world, you're like, oh, that was a waste of my money.
Well, yes, but I'm sure they had catered it to white people because this was like a white people or
this was let's get
tourist.
These people home kind of a situation. Anyway.
Yeah, it was definitely the tourist doctor. So they probably, as part of their training, had to see how miserable it was here and make sure and provide that. But either way, she did her job. She got her $50 for signing my piece of paper. I go running back out. Taxi gets me back, and I get back to the line, and the line's like still 2 hours long. I'm like, not a chance. Just run straight to the front and go back to the same lady that I had before. I'm like, there's your stupid piece of paper. Give me the ticket.
Dang, that's crazy that all these people have been waiting just let you.
They definitely they sent somebody over, and yeah, everybody was looking at me, and they did say somebody over, and I was like,
I've been through this line 3 times, pal.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it a 4th. Jeez.
And then
So how much time did you have to spare?
It ended up being enough.
Well, obviously you made it within like the hour cutoff time.
Right.
Because I remember flying around the U.S., as long as it's intercontinental U.S., it's like 45 or 55 minutes you have to be there in advance. So it's like literally enough to like sprint to your gate before they close the cab doors. And I've definitely, rocked up to that check-in at like 46 minutes left. Check in, and then the guy behind me doesn't make it, kind of a thing, for sure. So
that one I like doing that though, but at least for flights that don't matter. It wasn't
after all that stress. You didn't even think to like see how much time you had.
Yeah, it was enough time. Like it wasn't that close, thankfully.
So the dude hustled to get you to the hospital thing.
Office, the taxi driver was great.
Was it the same taxi driver? Did he wait for you?
Yeah.
What a G!
I told him.
Oh, you just told him, you wait here, I'll pay you for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because really, all said and done, it was less than 10 minutes in the hospital.
Yeah.
Doctor's office, whatever. So.
Dang. So you take that crazy experience, you finally make it home, and then you don't even get to see anybody for 2 weeks. There's no welcome home. There's just go play in the camper.
Yep. I lived in my dad's trailer.
Yeah.
And he would like bring me groceries and set them. He would like have gloves on and set them out on the steps. But the trailer was great. Like it's all you ever needed. Yeah.
I saw it for the first time a couple of weekends ago, and it's great.
Yeah, it's all you'd ever need. Bed. I mean, it's a great sized trailer. It was very, very fortunate to have that opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you back, man. It sounds like we barely got you, but
yeah, and it turned out I got an email later from the embassy saying that the flight that I took was the last commercial flight available.
Dang,
to the public.
The one that you went through Bangkok to Japan.
Bangkok, yeah.
Wow, so you were literally one flight away.
They were doing emergency missions out through the embassy.
Yeah, but I'm sure that's a pretty miserable experience.
Probably.
Wow. So really, I mean, as close a call as it could possibly be.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
So what? That was what, like April you got back? Beginning of April?
Yeah, very, very end of March, beginning of April, something like that.
So, I mean, you've been back in the States for 4 months now, and what's that kind of process been like as you've really aggressively started your new YouTube channel, The Unemployed Idiot, and that whole brand, as well as you've really just been charging after a lot of, you take aim at 10 $250,000 ideas, then eventually you end up with $1 million idea total.
That's the goal. Yeah. Like,
so tell us more about that.
The whole point of the trip was to decide what's next. And when I first went on the trip, I didn't want to make videos. I didn't want to do anything. Like, that was the whole point. Like, I had a few freelance jobs before I left and saved as all that money, and basically had enough for like 6 months where I could just do nothing. I didn't have to, as long as I lived on that $10 to $20 a day budget, I could live for 6 months with no job. Which after working 5 years for a job that didn't pay money anyway, was what I needed. Like I needed to just reset my life and figure out what I wanted to do for the next chapter. And so I didn't make videos for the first month of the trip, and then slowly started making some videos, putting them on YouTube, and realized that it's still fun to me. I've been making videos since way before YouTube was a thing, probably 20 years at this point, and realized that I still loved it. And so then I started doing it a lot and doing it just on my travels and the experiences and food that I was encountering over there, and really loved it. And then that kind of ended. I mean, it didn't kind of end. It absolutely ended.
Very unceremoniously
yes,
ended.
exactly.
But it ended.
It ended. And so then, again, I was like, well, what do I really want to do now? Again, like, I realized I loved making videos, and I really liked doing the food videos, and I had kind of done some quarantine cooking in the trailer, and maybe I would do more food videos. But then I kind of, again, like put some thought into it and realized my favorite videos to watch on YouTube aren't cooking videos. They're car videos. I love the guys that just make car videos, like Hoovie's Garage and Cletus McFarland, who had just bought a racetrack. Like he has 2 million subscribers, and he does well enough that he could buy a racetrack and just him and his friends
live there. Pretty much.
Yeah, just get a place, call it the Freedom Factory, where they just get to go and play cars all day. And like, to me, like, that sounded like the dream. Like, that's what I want to work towards, and we've even talked about it, like getting a compound, like our own space. And especially the quarantine even cemented that, as like, everything is closed. What do you do? Like, the BMX guys with their ramps, or the guys that have their own race traps, like, they're the guys that are set. They could care less if the world is closed. Like, they're fine.
Yeah, you look at like Baldock, Logan Martin, Pat Casey, all those dudes are putting out some of the best content they put out in years, just because they have nothing to do but go absolutely crazy on their own ramp setups. And I don't follow a lot of car channels, but I'm sure it's exactly the same.
Right. Yeah, totally. The guys that have their own place to drive are having the most fun, for sure. And so I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I just decided, like, whatever it takes. I mean, and that's like, I've always loved cars anyway. I don't know everything about cars.
Yeah, you can point out the front end versus the back end.
Totally, yeah. I know that you put it in gear 1 and then go to 2 and then 3, and I know. I don't have to put it in drive. I can use the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, and it just so happened that my dad has been building a race car for the past couple of years, so we have that. And then I was like, the only thing that's holding me back is money. So I'm just like, what can we do to get money? And so that's where I had this idea to form this whole brand around there's the videos, but then also the brand behind it, and like just kind of experiment with different business ideas, trying to bring in as much revenue as possible to just buy cooler cars and make cooler videos, and then work our way up until getting this racetrack or
I like the
compound.
Freedom Factory name. It sounds more marketable than when I refer to it as a compound. Everyone just tells me I'm a cultist. I'm like, no, I just want to live with all my best friends, and we hang out all the time. They're like, you're a crazy person. Freedom Factory sounds way better, yeah.
Yeah, Cletus is the man. He's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, so for those who don't know, we're referring to the Unemployed Idiot, which is a YouTube channel brand that Dylan has started. Definitely go check out some of those videos, like and subscribe, all the good stuff. Throw on the bell for the notifications.
Yeah.
YouTube tracks that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, and I even sometimes question, like, why did I call it the Unemployed Idiot? But I mean, for one, I like to do idiot things.
No, no one was questioning the idiot part of your YouTube channel.
Yeah, right. No, but to me, it means so much more. Like, on the surface, yeah, it's just the Unemployed Idiot. But it really means a lot. Like, I don't want to be like a normal person. Like, I've just never wanted to be normal. I don't want the 9-to-5 job and 40 hours a week, 80 hours a week, whatever, working for somebody else. And for society, like, that's generally not acceptable. Like, to society, even without doing the dumb things, to not have a job working for somebody else, you're an idiot. And I want to prove that wrong. Like, that's to me what the name is about. It's like, I want it to be a badge of honor to not have a job working for somebody else. I work way harder on this project than I would for somebody else. I work way more than 40 hours a week. But
yeah.
But it's still not for somebody else. It's just for me. And that's just the goal, is to have my freedom to do whatever I want. And yeah, it'll be, maybe I'll prove them right. Maybe it'll fail and I will be an idiot, but
either way, it'll be spectacular.
Either way, it'll be spectacular.
No doubt about that. Yeah. I don't know where the quote comes from, but it's
the first
whether
video
you
was
fail or succeed, do it in a spectacular manner.
That's a good one. One of the first ideas was to take a PT Cruiser to a motocross track, and we did that.
And it was spectacular.
It was spectacular.
Yeah.
And there's even better stuff coming very soon.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of great lead into the next little bit is obviously you've got a lot going with that, as well as the card game, as well as some really cool drink accessories and things like that. You kind of have a lot of irons in the fire right now. What are some of, without maybe giving away something that hasn't been patented or you just aren't comfortable with, what's maybe some cool videos to look out for? What's some cool videos that you have posted that people can go check out that can get people excited about the whole project?
Yeah, well, so yeah, that's been the hardest part is I've like got lots of ideas, and like dedicating the right amount of time to each idea has become the difficult thing. So there's lots of things I'm really excited about, but my most popular video currently is that I bought a 1993 Mitsubishi 3000 GT, and I'm turning it into a rally car. And so I've been documenting the process of that. The video says I bought the cheapest one in the USA, and a lot of people have taken that a little too seriously, and they're like, in the comments, they're like, I bought one for $600. Yeah. I bought one for $800. Mine's cheaper. Mine's in better condition. And I'm like, you guys, the research consisted of typing in on
the name of the title for YouTube, I just wrote these letters. I don't care what price you bought yours for.
I did do a little. There's a site called Auto Tempest that'll search car prices over the U.S.,
Gotcha.
But it doesn't search Craigslist and Facebook, which is where the cheapest ones are found.
Yeah.
Because that's
where you
limited.
bought your car.
Yeah. So, yeah, people are taking it a little too serious.
All the better to just drive traffic.
It actually has.
Yeah.
It's caused a lot of controversy in the comments
that's what drives.
Right. But that's my
content.
most viewed video. But either way, yeah, I've been documenting the process of turning it into a rally car, and it's basically done. I think tomorrow will be the first real test drive of it, and so I'm really excited about that. And I have some really cool video ideas for that. I want to just use that car to like really hopefully launch my channel even more, by just doing like Ken Block style videos with that car racing in the dirt. Is kind of the goal with that car.
Yeah, like a idiot Kana.
I was wondering. I was going to ask you if you like the name, because the first name that came to mind was just Dirt Kana, but
that sounds too good. What's going to result of a front-wheel drive Mitsubishi GT rally car is idiot Kana. It's not going to be good.
It's settled. I'm glad I didn't even have to bring that up. Because I was thinking Dirt Kana, and I looked it up today, and it's already been a thing. Like people have already taken that, and then Ken Block
worst Kana.
Ken Block has...
It's just like a challenge. Try and get people to submit their own, like, what's the worst version of a Jimmy Kana that you can make?
I think Idiot Kana has to be it, though. If we're doing the unemployed idiot, it's Idiot Kana. Yeah, I think so. So Idiot Kana...
We'll get the flower out, like when we were BMXers riding your backyard ramps, and we'd make our own pyrotechnics.
If you aerosolize flour, it explodes, which is a fun
spectacular
fact.
Yeah, it's a good time.
That's some...
No, I love it. And so I mean, you've got that going on. Another fun are there any other projects, you do car projects, but are there any other projects on the Unemployed Idiot channel that you kind of work on, or that you're looking into, or anything on the burners?
Well, I'm losing a lot of money on investments.
It's very front-end capital heavy starting a YouTube channel, for sure.
But so one of the ideas I had was I see all these people talking about Forex investing, foreign currency, and so I was like, I'll try it. And I put $1,000 into account, and that's down to $500. Then I got this YouTube ad for a guy that will give you like regular stock investing tips. So I put $1,000 into a Robinhood account, and his tips aren't faring much better. I haven't lost quite as much, but I'm definitely down. So those kind of projects, it was just kind of like a test. I'm like, let's see, because that's something that maybe people on YouTube might wonder. And at first I thought, this get rich quick. And
well, honestly, I bet just sharing that as part of the YouTube community, saying like, look, I specifically on this guy's ads, I followed his advice. This is what he said to do. This is what I did. This are my results. Like an actual review. Like that's something that most people probably would like in today's climate. I mean, I can't trust a Yelp review. You can't trust an Amazon review. You can't trust pretty much any review. Most people probably won't trust your YouTube review because of it, but at least I bet that'd be something that people would actually look into.
Right, and the problem is always just getting people to watch.
Driving traffic to the videos.
But I'm still trying. I mean, the channel is a month and a half old, so I'm still experimenting on what it is. My favorite thing was taking the PT Cruiser to the motocross track. I mean, I just thought, like, what could be better than taking the worst car in the world to a motocross track and just seeing how long it lasts and jumping it. It turned out it only lasted 10 minutes.
Big part of that was it was broken ahead of time.
Yeah, it ended up, I didn't check the oil, and it turned out there was no oil in it, and we threw a rod immediately before like an hour into owning it.
It was a good time though.
It was a blast, and so
I remember getting that phone call of, "Hey, You know that thing you've dreamt of since you were a child of taking a terrible car and ruining it and seeing how far you can thrash it? Well, we're doing that this weekend, so see you then.
And that is going to be a series. I think I'm going to steal a little bit from Ken Block. I like the name Will It Hoon.
Okay.
As in like
Hoonigans.
Hoonigan. But and so the series idea will just be finding various vehicles and like, oh, here's a
$500 Corolla from the 80s. Let's see how far
Will
this
It
takes
Hoon,
it.
yeah. Perhaps a stand-up jet ski. Will it hoon? I
Yeah.
bet so. I bet the stand-up jet ski will hoon.
I think that you and I will be the downfall of that hooning. There's a lack of talent more than anything.
But we'll learn. So really, it's just trying. Like, I'm gonna give it everything I have to be able to just do what I want for a living. And obviously, that's still work involved. There's lots of work involved. By no means am I just chilling like I was on the trip at some points. It's work, but it's work that I want to do, and I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, now that we're going to play a game called Who's Calling Dylan.
Oh.
Is it Layla?
I don't know. It's muted on my phone, but it's
It's coming
the
through
computer.
the laptops. Can't prepare for everything. I wonder if I can just like mute that. So that being said, I think that brings up a relatively good point is, with coronavirus and everything else, I've definitely taken stock of my own purchasing habits. Like I'm on like a straight up Amazon boycott. Is incredibly useful as Amazon is. Like I'll go out of my way to go someplace else, just for the sake of like either giving the business to someplace local that's actually hiring people locally, or whether there's probably a local company that does whatever it is that I'm trying to get, and just kind of accepting the fact that sometimes you have to work a little harder to do what's maybe right. What are some things that people can do to help support you as you grow this channel? What are like the two main things where like it really boosts how much growth your channel sees and how you can keep developing content?
I mean, at this point, I'm really focusing on the videos, the YouTube videos. So watching the videos and the ones that appeal to you. Don't watch a video if it doesn't appeal to you, and then commenting on it and saying if you like it or not. That would be
just engaging with the actual content itself.
And like, if the video sucks, then
post
then
that comment. That'll fire people up. That'll get things going.
I mean, that's the thing that's really hard. It's like, I don't know what people want if they don't tell me what they want. Like, if you watch the video and you're like, meh, that doesn't do me any good. If you hate it and you tell me why you hate it, then I can make less of that kind of video. Or I'm not going to cater to everybody. That's impossible. But if like if it turns out nobody is interested in PT Cruises on motocross tracks, then we won't make those types of videos. But if people love it, then if they tell me they love it, then I can make more. Like that's the thing. Because I myself am not a commenter, so it's hard to say that. But it helps
it's the
so
age
much.
of anonymity. If you are going to comment, it's under like a fake. And that's if you're going to do anything. You're going to use like a backup YouTube account.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like I want to know, I need to know what people think about any of the things that I post. And it like I said, it is I can't think of the the word, because I don't do that. I don't comment on anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking people to do something I don't do myself. But it really does help a lot.
Yeah, it is weird. I'm definitely the same. Like, I think I really only, I think, subscribe to like maybe 2 channels on YouTube, and it's less about subscribing and it's more about I don't want Google to have any more of my information. Like in my like purchasing habits and my viewing habits, which I think at some point that's part of the game, is just like I'm a little too Ron Swanson for my own good. One of my coworkers recently asked me if I was 80 because I'm just like a grumpy old man that wants roll down windows and mail should have stopped before it went digital and all that stuff. But yeah, I do think we're in an interesting age to be someone who's a creator that's making content, because obviously it can be incredibly lucrative and incredibly exciting, but also it's such a tricky, fickle mistress to try and get people to actually engage with the content, which ironically you did by typing an inflammatory, this is the cheapest 3000 GT ever bought, and ironically that worked. It's unfortunate that like of all the cool stuff you've posted, people are just upset about the title of a video, but at least it's drawing some traffic to the site, and hopefully through that people are getting excited about what you're doing over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I think we're pretty much at a good spot. Is there anything else you wanted to share? You feel like you want to get out to anyone who hasn't seen you since you've gotten back from Asia, or anything, last remarks before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, I guess there's, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's like, you can, like, especially now with coronavirus, it's like people are getting fired from the jobs that they hated anyway, or let go from the jobs they hated anyway. So you can fail doing something you hate. Why not try and do something you love? Because if you fail, then, oh, that sucks. But what if you succeed?
Yeah, that makes amazing sense. If the potential to fail is there anyways, why not at least do something you enjoy?
Yeah, and so that's what I'm doing. I hope, our mission with Joy Quota has been similar to that from the beginning. It's like we want to inspire people to be more joyful. And honestly, I'm right now the happiest I've ever been in my entire life by just pursuing my joy. So, and it's working for me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, it's weird because it's just the 2 hosts, but we'll end it the same way that we always do. When you think of joy right now, what pops into your mind? Like just in general. And again, it doesn't have to be a good story. I should have known this
one was coming.
I know, yeah. You shouldn't seem so taken aback. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a good story. This is kind of a selfish moment just for you, of like, when's like the last moment you can picture of just like feeling, overwhelming joy or incredible, fulfillment.
Right now, my joy is just thinking of the future, and just like, I'm so excited and so happy, like working on all these silly projects. Like, I've always been someone that likes to have things to look forward to in projects and ideas, and now I have all of these things that I'm like overwhelmed, but just like thinking about the future brings me so much joy, because of the potential, like unlimited potential. Life is unlimited. You can do whatever you want, and I'm embracing that. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I want.
Heck yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks, Dylan. I'm glad we could finally get a podcast going again. I was doing these for a while without you, and then my computer totally crapped the bed, and I had 1,000 other things on my plate, and spending another $1,000 on a computer that I just bought for $1,000 wasn't on the plate. So I'm just so excited to be able to do these again, and thanks for kickstarting.
That was
series 2, maybe season 2.
Yep,
of
season 2 of the Joy Quota Podcast. I'm excited for it too. Like, this isn't one of the things that I look forward to as well. Like, we're gonna keep it going this time.
I mean, yeah, we did a great job last time, and had you not left for Asia and Micah, it was like 3 different things all came together to a little hiatus there for a while. But honestly, I think we're in a great spot to continue. So looking forward to the next one, and until next time.